to the AMC livecast. Look at Matt already trying to stir the pot a little bit here. I hate the music.
I hate
on you.
You're welcome.
You, Matt.
We all voted for it.
Can't please them all, right?
Right? Matt, he's got call him stink stick. But you know what they say? The one who stirs the stuff with the spoon ought to be able to lick the spoon. That's what I'm saying.
What's up, Norm, Chuck, Kevin?
Norm, Chuck, Kevin, everybody.
Chat's
blowing up. Chat's blowing up. That's awesome. He says he don't like us either. Look at Dirt Road Cinderella's here.
Dirt Road Cinderella's in there.
Hey, Tiffany.
We have got what's going to be a very, very fun show for you guys today. I'm excited about this one. We have Rob Riv from the Insanity Podcast. Looking forward to getting him up here, and he's just a barrel of laughs. This guy, there's no telling what he's going to say. We were all just in the blue room, rolling on the floor, laughing with him.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Peppy? Well, let's just get right to it. You guys ready to do your? Bruce has got a new format for our shout out, so we're excited about that. But let's go ahead and get that ball rolling.
Yes.
Who's first, Bruce?
There we go.
I'm first. That's me. Yep. I'm first. I want to give a big old shout out to Ed Shootdang Models, man. He's got a really cool show a really cool channel over there. You guys will go and check him out, man. He's all the time. On his latest one, he did the Sunday model cars and coffee, and got really cool Oldsmobile petty car that he was doing on there. It came out really nice that he was sharing with everybody, and he did some shop card shout outs. So y'all go over there and check out Ed at Ed Shootdang Models and give him a big old thumbs up, give him a sub, and tell him that the AMC livecast sent you.
He's a good dude. Yep.
Yeah, nice, cool dude for sure. He's constantly commenting on my stuff. I try to comment on his as much as I can, but he's a good guy for sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Did a great job on that petty car too. That's an old school petty car. It's really good.
Yep.
And next we have.
This one's mine. This is Pop's Place for 3D prints and builds and reviews. He's also got a Facebook page. His name's Brian. Really cool dude. Really nice guy. I've been watching his videos. He's got some good tutorials. Go over there and check him out. He's only got 36 subscribers, so let's go over there and bump that guy up. He's a real good dude. So go check out his Facebook page too. He talks about it on this channel here. So
definitely, if he's got 36, let's get him up to 75.
Yeah, let's get him up there.
Yep. And the next one's mine. And this is a Salvinos J R Models.
Yes, love Salvinos J R Models, man.
Yes, and I wanted to give them a shout out because they have a new YouTube channel. They moved from Facebook over to YouTube because of the buffering issues and some other things. And they've done 3 shows, maybe 2 so far. Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock Eastern. But I think they're in Central Time Zone, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Matt's on there. He's in the chat, and then Rick's a hoot. They're just a. If you want to know anything about NASCAR stuff, that's the channel to watch.
That's it. In fact, I just got my kit of the month. It's a 1989.
Nice.
Well, they don't call it the Dale Senior car. They call it the Richard
Childress. Yeah.
Oops.
Oh, Mikey.
They don't have the licensing for.
Sorry,
that one, so.
I clicked the wrong button.
I thought you kicked me out for a minute.
Yeah. Well, I had to scroll down to get to the other one, and
now instead of getting the comment, take a breath, Mike. He's just gonna boot me out of the room.
You're out of here.
Well,
you see the line, folks,
speaking of out of here, let's get a guy that's definitely not from around where I'm from around. Let's get him forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to run a little clip for you, and then we're going to have Rob Riv come forward. Roll that beautiful bean footage. welcome to the show. And before you say anything, I already know that we're going to get a Riv rant right off the rip.
Very disappointed. It hasn't even started, not even 10 seconds in. You got Rob Adams, Model Makers Union logo in there. I want nothing to do with that guy. I need to disassociate myself with him. And I know that Lucas C's listening. You got to stop bothering me, Matt. I got to get a restraining order for that guy. It's got to stop because it's becoming really, really. You're in Arizona, Matt. I'm in New York. There's a 3-hour difference. When you start texting at 10, 11 o'clock in a drunken stupor, I'm sleeping. It's 1 o'clock in the morning.
One of your sidekicks is here. Justin's here.
Say, Justin just showed up.
You know what?
He's got a lot of.
My
I'll
opportunity.
even let you see it. He's got a lot of faith in you. He's like, "Oh, spit! There goes the planet."
Yeah, I try to. This is my one night that I obviously have some. I can be disassociated with like Justin and Rob Adams and these guys, and they still got to come in and harass me. But that's good. I'm glad to be here. We're gonna have a lot of fun, and I'm gonna try to curb the. I'm gonna try to think before I speak tonight a little bit.
Well, we're expecting an F-bomb here or there, but
I'm gonna try to keep that to a minimum.
we do try to keep it family, but we want you to be you as well. So
yeah, we'll be all right.
Well, we appreciate you coming on tonight.
I'm glad to be here. I told Mike I'll help him out. I know you guys have been struggling a little bit, but hopefully we'll get the ratings up tonight for this show.
That's awesome.
All right.
Really appreciate it.
We're no insanity podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna bump them up a little bit.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, we start off these questions the same way, and then after that, we're just going to roll with it. But you want to share how you got into the hobby, what got you started, what you build? We know you're primarily an armor builder, and a damn good one at that. But you want to share with us a little bit about where you come from, where you started in the hobby?
Yeah, so just like anybody, I always, the old shtick for everybody is everybody started as a young kid, got really involved in the hobby when I was probably, 7, 8, 9 years old. My dad was really into like HO scale trains. And my dad was always building like some train set in the basement that he would always be building it, but he never ran a train on it. So, yeah. So, as a kid, go to the hobby shop, seeing all like the Tamiya and Monogram kits and models and the display. I started building models like anything, armor, cars, planes. I would build like 1/72 scale, like Airfix planes and build them in a day and paint them and blow them up with firecrackers and stuff. And then, like just like anybody, you go to school, you go into your teens, I wasn't really into the hobby probably then, but then probably in my early 20s, my father had passed away young. My dad was my age, younger than me when he passed away. And then my mother got sick shortly thereafter. Look at Frankie Donati. This is another guy. Look at that face.
Get away from those guys.
He walked out of the house in the morning looking like that too, man. But my mom got like terminally ill shortly after my father, and I needed kind of like some escape. And I was like, you know what? I haven't built a model in a long time. And I went to the hobby shop, and it was like you walked in, it was like, wow, man. It's like being home again. You could smell like the paint, the glue, and the mildew. And bought a kit, and that was probably sometime in the mid 90s, 95-ish. And from there I was hooked again. And then I got back into armor, and that's pretty much it. I've been serious in the hobby now, hardcore, going on 30 plus years now. So
wow.
Yeah, so I've been building, and I've been heavily in the armor community, especially stateside, probably since like the late 90s. Different time back then, obviously before social media, smartphones, it was all web-based stuff. The big like track link, missing links, things like that. Getting involved in that way. And there's a book that like kind of like is my Bible in the hobby, which was the Panzer modeling book from Osprey, which was Tony Greenland, who's like was an idol of mine, kind of like was a super detailer, scratch builder, and was kind of brought me like to where I was and how I wanted to be as a modeler. And thankfully at some point I was able to meet and know Tony as and speak to him. You idolize somebody, and then you start becoming friends with them, on a level, because right. And that was always something that I appreciated And from that, the rest is rock and roll history.
Justin giving you a hard time. They said he was playing it in the Discord, and they told him to shut it off because they were enjoying their rib-free quiet time.
Well, that's the insanity. So the background on that is obviously I host a podcast, the Modeling Insanity podcast. I brought a little background on that. The original podcast was the Modeling Miscreants that I did with Jeff Hearn and Mike Sacklin. And then we brought Steve Santucci on because I got to fucking bring that guy everywhere I go. But we did that for a while, but just like anything, it didn't have legs, and it kind of, everybody's this didn't work out. So I wound up starting the Modeling Insanity podcast and the group, and that was just about 2 years ago now. And from there, we, it's been getting great. We started a new brand. And we have a lot of fun. Justin, Steve, Frankie Donati, Rob Adams, and it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy it. And now we're going to be starting a YouTube channel. We're going to try to go on the Modeling Insanity TV. Is going to be launching some point in March, and Awesome. It's going to be tutorial based. Maybe do some of what you guys are doing right now. Mike, I'm sorry, I'm not going to have you on now, but we're going to have a great time.
I wouldn't have me on there either.
I'll get you on. You'll be like my 72nd guest.
Yeah,
maybe 73. Now Lucas C guy will be like 82, maybe 83. But no, again, we love the whole idea of the Modeling Insanity podcast. We're definitely different than a lot of the other modeling shows. We're 100% unscripted. We'll always be ourselves on there. It's not kid friendly. You'll hear me going after Santucci, or just going after this topics in the hobby and just speaking freely about it. And a lot of people like that. Some people don't. Listen, there's a lot of people who don't like that type of content, and you know what, I can appreciate that, but you don't have to listen. You're this free country, you don't want to listen, you don't have to listen. But the ones that do, if they're enjoying themselves and getting a couple of laughs or learning something, that's all I care about. And I started a second podcast, which is called the Quarter Scale Madness, which is with Luke Pitt and Stan Spooner, and that's like based on like quarter scale, like 1/48 scale stuff. And it's sort of a little more timid. It's not as like crazy as the Insanity. I promised Luke and Stan I wouldn't be as crazy on there. And that's doing pretty good too. And again, we're starting a YouTube channel, and it's great.
That's awesome, man. Well, we've got him here, and I want to fluff his pillow a little bit. I personally owe a big thank you to Lucas C, because he's the one that introduced me to y'all's podcast. And when I went on there, I as everybody in the chat knows, I run a bulldozer all day long, so I'm sitting on my butt for 10 hours. And I started from right from the very first Insanity all the way up to I look forward to them coming out. I wanted to build character development, and listening to that just made me laugh all the way through there. And then Jason brought it up a little bit earlier, and we'll get into that too. But when we hung out on the turkey shoot and then hang out in the Discord, and I've gotten to get to know all you guys, it's really cool how a lot of what you guys are doing, whether it be armor, aircraft, and you got guys like Justin and Rob Adams that do cross over into automotive. But it's neat how some of your techniques will work really well with what we're car centrics, obviously.
Right.
And but your claim to fame is something that is like, I say your claim to fame, one of your claims to fame is PE, and that is like the devil's metal to me. I can't figure it out, but you do an amazing job with your photo etch stuff. And those pictures that Bruce rolled for you at the intro, there's a lot of PE in there. You do a lot of great work with that stuff.
Well, that one tank with all the tracks on, that was a lot of photo etch on that, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of photo etch, soldering, things like that. Listen, everybody's got a claim to fame in this hobby somewhere or another. You do what you're good at. The analogy I make? The analogy that I use is when you got double D boobs, you show those puppies off. You don't wear a turtleneck, right?
Right.
You there, you show your attributes. If you're good at something, you show it. So one of the running gags with me is that I don't paint all the time. And it's like I build subjects, some things, and I do things for the magazine, and I also like do just builds and stuff that aren't painted, but I also paint. I was always painting, but there came a point where, you know, I built some of these models and everybody's like, oh, you can't paint it. You can't cover all that work you did, all the photo etch, all the, you know, scratch building or whatever. And then I don't paint it and they bust my balls about not painting, you know, but it's like, you know, the way I always see it in all seriousness is, you know, you do what makes you happy in this hobby. You know, I don't care what people say as long as I'm enjoying myself. If I like just building and just building a model and, you know, not painting it, that's what I like to do. Can I paint? Of course I can paint. In my opinion, painting is the easy part in a lot of ways. Anybody can fucking paint the model. Sorry, I've cursed. But anybody can paint. It just depends on how well you can do it. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you can't build a model good, you can't build a model good. So,
and that goes across. It doesn't matter if it's tanks, armor, aircraft. If you don't have the basics, you can put the best paint job in the world or the best photo etch in the world. You got to get the basics down. That's
like I said before we started. I mean, each genre in the hobby, whether you build armor, cars, planes, ships, Gundams, whatever, each one has a different attribute that's like pertains usually to that genre, right? You know, with armor, you know, you get away with a lot of things in armor, like we talked about. You know, when you weather a model, you know, like I said, it's coordinated madness, right? You know, you do things to make things look natural. That's like weathered naturally. And you flick paint on, you spray paint on, you move paint, you do this. Yeah, pink and salmon. Right, Frank. Right. They break my balls about my turkey shoots that have been pink. It's not my fault. That's what the colors they were supposed to be. Well, anyway, like with the plane model, you know, you got to be able to fill seams and do cockpits, and ships, you got to be able to do railings and this, that, and the other, and cars, you got to be able to make those great finishes. So each genre has a different level of skill that you need, and they carry over between the two. I mean, just because you're an armor builder doesn't mean you can't build a car or vice versa. But I personally enjoy armor because I just feel like there's just so much more that you can do, and you can be more expressive in armor. Like I'm a big German armor guy, Russian armor guy, World War II. So, you know, one particular, you know, version of a German tank might have, you know, they might have made like 2,000 of it, and every one of them looked different, right? They were beat up, they were dinged up, they painted different camouflages, different unit numbers. But if you're going to build like a freaking 1969 Chevy Nova, they only looked a certain way, right? I mean, there's only so many ways you can paint the Chevy Nova, right? But there's a lot of ways you can paint the Stug for a German Stug, you know? So that's why that was always appealing to me. Might not be appealing to the people listening to the show, but for me, that was appealing.
Well, I think we've got a lot of people in the chat that at least have dabbled with aircraft or have done something else along the way. I know that
some of them like to build everything. They just rotate. So,
well, you talked about the Discord. Like, you go into our rooms where, like, tonight there's got to be, I think there's like 10, 11 guys in there right now. You know, there's the people that are in that room, the guys that are in that room, all build different things. I mean, there's car guys, there's armor guys, there's guys who build planes. There's some ship guys that might come in and stuff like that. So it's not just armor centric. The Insanity group is not an armor group. It just so happens that, you know, myself is a big armor guy, and I probably have a lot of voices in the group. So we talk a lot about armor, but we do try to delve into, like, you know, cars with Justin, who's always causing shit over on the Lucas C page. And then I got to put out the fire because he brings that to me. And I tell him all the time you know, stop doing that shit. And I blame Luca for allowing him to do it. You know what I mean? Everybody, you know, you don't blame the kid, you blame the parent, right? When your kid's bad and talks shit, it's not the kid's fault. The parent allowed him to do it. And that's what Luca does. And that's why when I see Luca in person, I'm going to punch him right in the face.
Awesome.
So if you were to tell any of the people watching tonight that, is there any like specific hand tools that you would recommend to help with photo etch that you use on a daily basis?
Listen, I'm a big flat-nosed plier guy. Like flat-nosed pliers that are stumped at the beginning, that they're flat at the tip, and they're like flat-nosed pliers is the biggest tool that I use for all my photo etch. If I would be lost without that. Two tools, I'm like, if I lose it, just like if you lose your phone, your heart starts racing. Where's my phone?
My
wife might find out the shit I watched the other day. For me, I get that same reaction if I can't find my flat-nosed plier or my angled tweezers.
Okay.
That's it. And I'm gonna tell you right now, some bastard stole my angled tweezers at the AMC Nationals in 2023. I was putting my models out. I had my tweezer there. I was fixing things. I walked away for 2 minutes. I came back. Someone stole my tweezer. It's not like these things are worth $1 million. It's like a $2 tweezer. You could have go bought a new one. Some guy stole it on me. So I had to get another tweezer and try to get acclimated to a new tweezer. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's like trying to use a new pair of shoes. You got to break those bastards in, right? But if I lose that, if I can't find my tweezer or my flat nose plier, I'm like having a panic attack. So again, for me, flat nose plier is the most important tool for any photo etch guy, because you can bend small photo etch, large photo etch. Photo etch benders, there's some really good ones on the market. Display makes a really good one that I use. RP Tools makes a good one. Mission Models had a couple of them that they made. They were one of the first ones. But I have one that I have, one tool that I have that you can't buy, was made from a friend of mine that I knew from Fine Scale from years ago. It's called a fender bender. They don't make them. He gave me a prototype of it years and years ago, like 20 plus years ago. I still use it to this day. It's like the best tool I've ever had, because you can bend like long parts, like with like a twist of this device. And I told him he would have been a rich man if he would have really marketed that sucker, but I don't know what happened. So those are the tools for me.
Awesome.
And you solder your
I do. I solder most of my photo etch. I mean, I know if you could have saw one of the models that was on that little intro that had a lot of soldering work. I'm a big soldering guy. There's going to be a bunch of tutorials up on the new YouTube channel when it comes out, but there is some on my Rob Riz Modeling Insanity YouTube channel, which I neglected now for almost a year and a half. I just haven't had time to really dedicate anything to it. But there's a really couple of soldering videos on there.
Sweet.
You gotta solder when you do photo etch. You gotta, because you can't, the small parts you can use, like, CA. But if you want to really bond metal to metal, you have to solder. You just have to. And the only way you can get better at soldering is to know what tools to buy, the best ones for photo etch, and also know and just practice, right? That's the big thing. If you're not practicing and if you're doing it on, okay, I can say it like this. I'm a big, there you go, Bruce. Yeah, right there. You need a needle tip. I use a Weller 35 watt with a power regulator. You got to have a power regulator when you solder, meaning you could buy stations that have it built in, or if you buy this a regular iron, you could buy a power regulator that can adjust the amount of electricity that's going to the soldering iron. Because sometimes soldering irons get too hot, and if it's too hot, you're going to F shit up when you're doing stuff, or it doesn't have enough heat and you can't move your solder, right? So I always tell people, you always practice on spare things. Even painting, like whenever I'm painting, I'm always got a mule next to me, and I always spray on the mule. If I'm going to put decals down, I try it on something that's not my model. Or if I'm soldering, I always test it on a part that if it gets messed up, it doesn't matter, because that's what it's there for. So you always got to try it out and test it before you go to what you want to put it on, because you're going to screw your shit up.
Yeah.
That's mock up. That's what should be the same thing as mock up for us. Yeah.
Soldering, people are afraid of soldering for some reason, and I can understand that. It is intimidating if you don't know what to do or don't know what products to buy or use when you're soldering. But when you find out what works for you, now what works for me doesn't necessarily going to mean it's going to work for somebody else. Like I say that all the time. Just because I use it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you, right? I love my wife, but I'm telling you, she'll drive anybody crazy. So it doesn't matter. Like, what's good for one might not be good for another. So I always tell people, try different stuff. Now, obviously, you're not going to go buy 10 soldering irons and try to pick and choose which one works. I tell people, do your research, see what works for you, ask questions on Facebook, message me. I'm available. I get a lot of messages. I get a ton of messages during the course of a week. And a bunch of them are soldering questions. What do you use? And I already got a folder already in my phone, already ready to send people pictures of what I use. And the stuff I use is nothing crazy. I get the flux. I get the non-electrical flux that from Ace Hardware. I use, regular 0.05, that stuff will work, Bruce. Yeah, there you go. Right there. That's perfect. Perfect. Rosin free. Excellent. The thing is this stuff, is readily available and it's cheap. Go on Amazon. You can get a spool of solder that I use. It'll last you 10 lifetimes. You'll never have to buy another one. So
we on the car side, we tend to make headers out of solder too. So between doing the soldering and using the solder for other stuff, you got twofold. Then you can use it for two different things.
Right.
I've done soldering in the one-to-one world with especially wire connections and that. But I've never used. I've been afraid of photo etch until again talking to you guys and hanging out and got brave. And I just bought these to draw a connection. Sorry for going off screen, but I know Edward makes a lot of stuff for armor and aircraft and all that. But they also make some really nice seat belts.
Yeah, but you know what? The problem is you got freaking Edward photo etch there, and you ain't soldering that because it's nickel based.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This one here is
what I'm saying is that's another thing that people need to understand is that it's got to be brass or brass type photo etch for it to solder properly. Edward's photo etch, you ain't soldering because you can't solder nickel, you can't solder aluminum. Okay. And so it won't, it's you're gonna put solder on it, it's gonna just peel off like it's like like a Scotch tape. So that's one of the things that people need to understand. Edward photo etch like that, nickel based solder photo etch is not gonna solder. Yeah. And listen, people say, "Wow, your photo etch is nice and clean." Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, when I do it and I'm building it, it ain't clean. I clean it up when I'm done. Right. Yeah. So solder is going to get places. It's going to move around. It's going to maybe pool up in certain areas. And I scrape it down. I sand it down. I buff it out. And then I make it look nice and pretty when it's done. But it doesn't. Sometimes I'm able to do some precision soldering. And, I've been soldering a long time and I do it a lot. So it's easy for me. Like I'm going to be doing another demo tutorial at the AMC Nationals in Camp Hill in May of 2025. And I do it. We get a good show in there. And I show people how it works, and it's easy. It's easy for me, but it's also easy for other people when they figure out how to do it properly.
That's awesome.
So just like anything else, practice makes you got to practice at it, right? Work at it.
Got to practice.
Yeah.
Main thing is you want to keep that tip clean.
Tip cleaning, yeah. I just use. Well, for me, you know what? I'm really good. Brillo pad, but I just use a wet sponge, and I just move the solder around, and it's usually perfect. I've been using the same tip. I have a whole box of tips ready to go, and I've been using the same one tip for like 2 years. It's been perfect. You want a tip that's been used, like when you have a tip that's like it's like a seasoned veteran. It has memory. It knows, like when I solder, when I'm soldering, I don't use the solder I don't like hold the solder and then the soldering iron and go to the part. I put the solder on the iron and put the iron to the part. So when I put the solder on my iron, I want it to beat up like a little ball on the end. And that's when you know that your soldering iron is at the perfect temperature, is when you dip your solder into your flux and then you put it to the tip of your soldering iron. If you get like a little ball, like a little bead, then you know that your soldering iron is perfect. Because when you put your solder to the metal and you put that soldering iron to the part with the solder on it, it's going to spread out like that. And the other thing is, and people know this who know me or watch me or saw me or hear me talk about soldering or other things in PE, tape is your friend. Tape is your friend, meaning you need a third hand when you solder or when you do certain things when you're building. That's when double-sided tape is your friend. You tape down your part, you tape down the part that you want soldered if you can do it, and then you put your solder down and you'll never have a problem. And the other thing is people have an issue when they're bending solder or bending PE and then trying to solder. And what I tell people is try not to make your bends in your PE until you put your soldered parts on and then bend. Because what happens is they make their parts up and then they got to solder something on and it's at a weird angle. And if they would have never bent their photo etch in the first place and just soldered first, that makes life 10 times easier. So I show that in a bunch of tutorials that we're going to be having up on the YouTube channel soon.
Yeah, so that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, right around the 30-minute mark, we like to run our little commercial. We're about.
Oh, come on, Mike. We're having a good time here. Ed Spots.
Take a breath. Take a breath.
I got things to do tonight. I'm only kidding.
We'll be right back after this brief commercial, guys.
Roll it.
Roll that beautiful bean. Always good to
that's
hear
it.
from our awesome sponsors, Josh over at VCG Resins and Chris at Scale Speed Garage. Love those guys. Go check them out and be sure and use your discount code. And speaking of Josh, what's up,
There
buddy?
he is.
He
Hey,
just
Josh.
popped in.
Got here just in time, buddy.
Yeah, you did.
We are here tonight. We have Rob Riv from Insanity Podcast on with us, and he was talking about photo etch and how he got into the hobby, and he's always good for a laugh. He's been picking on Matt, which is always a good thing. We like to hear that. But let's get back at it. I kind of shortened had to take a little break there, a little pee break. So
you just ruined the you just ruined the flow. I don't even know where we were now. What are we talking about?
Models.
I don't know.
Oh, God, I got to start all over again.
Photo etching.
I think you were just learning how to walk, and somebody gave you a soldering iron.
Right.
Yeah, we'll be all right.
So for your first Christmas, you got a soldering iron and a tank model, and you were running around in your diaper.
Don't put your eye out with it.
Nah. That was way after the soldering iron.
Way after the soldering.
No, I appreciate that. The soldering thing is a big thing in my modeling because I like to build my roll cages out of brass. And I love to use the soldering iron. I think more people used to do it back in the day, but it'd be nice to see more guys get back into the scratch building, soldering, using metal in their models.
You know why that's happening, right?
Well, the 3D printing is
right. The fucking 3D printing's taking over, and everybody knows how I feel about that. Now, don't get me wrong, 3D printing's fantastic, but it's a cop out. I'm sorry. It's and people know that I took a lot of crap on one of the episodes of The Insanity because of my stance on 3D print. And don't get me wrong, I like 3D print, and I think it's very good for the hobby. And I understand that people don't want to spend 3 hours building something, but that's what this hobby's about, isn't it? Isn't it about building? Isn't it? Like, why do we want to take the building out of the hobby, which is about building and making things?
I think, and we've had this conversation before. I think scratch building and the ability to scratch build is a skill in itself. And like you were saying,
it's becoming a lost. It's becoming a lost art.
It is becoming a lost art.
Just like a lot of old makers of things back in the day no longer exist because it was replaced because things were automated, right?
Right.
3D printing is automating the hobby.
Yeah. See,
it's making it. What was it?
For me personally, and this again, I come from. I can scratch, but my closest thing to scratch build is I can chop up a chassis. I can kit bash. I can chop up a chassis and maybe make that work. Maybe even go so far as to make a little bit of suspension stuff. But if it wasn't for the 3D printed side, I'd almost be either kit bashing or coming out of the box because I don't have, and that's not to say I couldn't develop it. And maybe I think that's kind of what you're saying. There's no need for me to develop that talent because I can get it from 3D printing. But I get it though. We got a guy, Mark Batson, that's real big in on the car side of the hobby, and he does a little bit of everything. But his scratch building is amazing. I mean, he's
I agree with what Justin said though too. Is I know for a fact there's a lot of people that are more getting into the hobby for the painting side, the artistic side. So that's where the 3D printing stuff really takes off.
Right. I was going to say that.
You know. Yeah.
You got the two factions. You got hardcore modelers, I would say, old school, like myself. Fred, I'm sure it'll up your game, and it'll up anybody's game. It's a 3D print. There's not much work. You just got to take it off its tree and put it down. Listen, back in the day, I'm going to be like, back in the day when I walked in 3 feet of snow barefoot to go to school. But back in the day when you wanted to fix something, you had to know how to model and do it, right? You wanted to fix, like, let's say, I'm going to speak on the armor as an armor modeler. Let's say, for instance, a particular kit came out and it had the wrong engine deck on the rear. Now, granted, there might have been some companies that would have done resin casting replacement, which there was. Back then, it was called resin casting. Here, it's 3. Instead of scratch building and casting, you're making your scratch building on a computer and printing, right? But most people, like myself, would get the the dimensions of that engine deck and scratch build it. Add bolts, punch and die sets, and add everything down and model make like they did for Star Wars when they had to make the Millennium Falcon.
Yep.
Dump like 1,000 pieces of like every model that was ever made by Revell and Monogram, and they made an X-Wing, and they made an AT-AT, and they made a Millennium Falcon, right?
Yep.
That was model making. Now it's like, oh, you know, I know like Iceman, whatever, makes 3D resins of 3D stuff, or some of these other companies like T-Rex for armor and these other places that make resin conversions and resin parts, or people make their own parts and print them out. It's easier, but it takes away the modeling of the model. Like that takes away, it's called modeling for a reason. It's not called painting, right? You paint on this. You model, and I know I take a lot of shit for this, and I'm always going to be, oh, Rob, you don't care because you don't, just because you don't like it doesn't mean other people want. No, I understand that. I understand that you should have your opinions, and your opinions are well taken and noted. But for me, I don't want to. I want to sit down at my table and relax and build a model. I don't want to make a model per se and take like a resin this, a resin, 3D print this, 3D print that. 3D printed tracks, make everything easier because I want it to be mine. And I always say to people, if everybody used the same 3D printed conversions to make a model, then everybody's model looks the same. And I when people say, oh, well, it's painted different. I understand that. I'm talking about the build. And I think that the model making in its pure sense of scratch building and using photo etch. And I know some people say, oh, well, a photo etch set is also prefabricated too. I understand that, but you have to make it. Right. You have to make the photo etch. It's
not fabrication in it. Yep.
Right. It's flat, and you have to know how to use it and build it. You can't just take a photo etch set and snap your finger and it's okay. With the 3D printed upgrade, it's a snap of a finger and it's on your model. It all comes down to what type of glue you're going to use to put it on there. That's the only dilemma you'll have. Sorry, guys. I hope I didn't offend anybody out in internet land.
No, and there again, that is, your opinion, just like everybody else has got a different opinion. And that's what
makes
me
worked up over here. I didn't expect this tonight. I thought this was going to be family friendly. I'm starting to get all fired up.
No, that's fine.
Fred, they are more enhanced on a 3D printed thing, and I'm not gonna say that they're not, but I am gonna say that 3D printing, and I'm gonna hold strand. I love it. I love taking shit for what I say. I want to be controversial because if you're listening, I'm getting deja vu right now. I think this happened on another show. I am actually. The thing is like I truly believe that 3D printing is the future in some ways, but I also believe it's starting to take the modeling out of the modeling. Right? If you're making it and you're sitting at your computer making your part, I can appreciate that. But when you're buying prefab stuff on Colt, so you're buying it from another larger manufacturer, listen, if you like that, that's great. It's you get out what you put in. But for me personally, I want to be able to know that my signature is on my model. That's why when I make a model for, let's say, Military Modelcraft or Steel Masters or another magazine, that's Rob Riv's model because I made it. I armor textured that model. I did the photo etch. I soldered those parts. I scratch built that. I fixed that to make it look better. I know that I did that. I didn't buy someone's prefab 3D printed set and put it on my model and called it my own because it's not my own.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We've got a guy in the chat that's a known scratch builder, Tim Klinkowitz, and he's like you. He's going to build. He's gonna make it, right?
Tim, you're a good guy, man. We should go bowling together. I already like you. Where are you? Me and you are a team. I want you.
He's made all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, me and him are good. I like him already. Where is he? Oh, he's not on. He's listening.
He's in the chat.
There he is.
He said he sucks at bowling though.
We'll figure it out, Tim. We'll do something. We'll you give me a call, Tim. Me and you, we'll be a team together. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about
it. You gotta cut your ball out of stone first.
Yeah, right. Just scratch build your ball first.
Yeah.
Rob, that's how Rob gets his. That's how Rob gets his bowling ball. He takes all the PE stuff that didn't work, wads it into a ball, goes bowling with his PE ball. That's
Well,
funny.
let's try to get away from controversy. I don't want hate mail tonight. So what else you want to talk about, Mike?
Come on. And
what color spark plug wires do you use?
What's
Yeah,
that?
right.
What color spark plug wires do you use?
Dudes, what the hell? Listen, you talk about cars. I like what Cole Trickle said in Days of Thunder. I don't know how to fucking work it. I just know how to put the key in the ignition and drive. I don't know how it works. I just know it works when I put the key in.
So let me ask you this. Like Mike was telling me, and I've seen some of your builds where you do more non-painting. What led you into that drove you to the interest of just doing them natural like that? Just the raw fabrication look? Or
I will say that COVID is probably what started that.
Okay.
Because around COVID, myself, my buddy Steve Santucci, and my buddy Lou, we were kind of like stuck in, you're stuck in your house. And this is before we got into like the Discord thing, and we would be all like on FaceTime on the phones and whatever. And I had a lot of shelf queens, a lot of stuff that was like 20% done, 60% done, other ones 75% done. So the goal is to at least build everything and get it out of shelf queen status and get it into Rob Riv's plastic bin status. So get it off the shelf or get it built. And what happened was I was building so much at that time that I wasn't painting because my wife was home teaching. She's a teacher, so she was home all day. And it was before I had the spray booth that I have now. I have a Bob Pace spray booth. Fantastic. Bob Pace, if anybody needs spray booths. Bob, if you make any money this week, I want a percentage. But I didn't paint because my wife, who sits over her friggin' nails with the acetone, would be bitching and complaining about my paint smell in the basement.
Yeah.
Right? She's there, So I didn't paint during that time because I didn't want to hear her mouth. So I was building, and I got so used to building, and I was like in a really building mode that I kind of like was just building instead of painting.
Okay.
And I do paint. Don't listen to people talk shit. I still paint, and I don't, but I don't paint on a regular basis like I should. And you should paint more often than me because I do believe you lose your skill slightly.
Yeah.
But I've painted so many models over the years, and Justin's Krylon, these assholes with the Krylon spray can paint. I've painted so many models over the years that Rust-Oleum too, that I don't need to, like, I don't feel like I have to prove anything with the painting anymore.
Right.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob. You've took home best of shows.
Yeah, I mean, I've won some good awards.
I mean,
I've won. Listen, all my awards, they kind of sit in a freaking box in the back of my closet. But like, those who know me know I'm not a show guy. I haven't competed in a show hold on a minute. You all right, buddy? You're okay. Lay down, right? It's my son. I'm sorry, guys. I haven't competed in a show. I competed in the last nationals I competed in was in 2022 in Virginia. And the reason why I competed in that show, and I've talked about this before, is because I was getting my balls busted by so many people, whether it was for joking and some weren't joking. And I was like, fuck them. I'm going to paint the model and I'm going to put it in the show. And God damn it, I almost won best in show at that nationals.
That's awesome.
And I took a best of for one of my stugs, and I did really well. That's the last show that I've competed in. But prior to that, it was like 7 years before that I competed. So I've only really competed in one show in the last 10 years almost. I bring in my display. I put my naked models or whatever paint the models I have. Rob Riv. My buddy Dan Feldman made me a nice little plaque that says models by Rob Riv. And I put the little plaque there. I put my little display. And if you want to talk about the models and what I did, I'm going to stand there and talk about it. That's all I care about. I don't care about an award or anything like that anymore.
Right.
Well, Don brought up a thing, says he doesn't compete anymore. He just judges. That's something.
Yeah, I do ACJ, and I do assistant chief judging at the national level and judging at others. But I'm like the head judge, I'm the head judge at my local IPMS club. And listen, I'm all about the camaraderie, the friendships, competing and going head to head. That's a part of the hobby that just doesn't really do anything for me anymore.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
Got a complaint, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I keep reaching up there to scroll on the thing, poking them in the eye. Rob, if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about the magazines that you're a part of and
Yeah,
that sort of
sure.
thing. You want to tell us a little bit about
Yeah, no,
the
sure.
magazine?
Yeah. So if you saw the intro, I'm the assistant U.S. editor for Military Modelcraft International. It's a guideline publications magazine. It's the best. I think it's well, not that I know. I know it's the best the U.S. English speaking armor magazine around. It's a great magazine, and I've contributed over the years there, but over the last year plus, I've been with the U.S. editor tag. So I help Dave Grummett with well, he does all the work really, but I contribute every month, and I also help and proofread articles, get people for interviews, things like that. Try to find new contributors for the magazine, especially on the North American side. And it's great. I love it, and it's a big, it's a lot of work because I contribute every month. So some months I might only have one article, some months I might have three. So it all depends on how much time I have and what I'm building. So the last few months I've been doing a lot of 1/16 scale stuff, which takes up a lot of time. And they can be anywhere from 6 to 7 pages each article, and usually it's a non-painted model. It's usually just the build, but I have done, you saw, there was one on the intro. You saw, there was a 2-part article. It was a build paint article. It was like, I think total between the two was like 14 or 15 pages. That article was the build and painting. And it was like a Panzer 3A. And it's fun. I love doing stuff for the magazine because that's my give back to the hobby. It's, I think you kind of lose the, the rush you get from seeing your name or your stuff in print. After a while, this becomes normal. But it was always a goal of mine to get on the publishing side of the hobby. Maybe it was validation in some ways. I never expected to be asked to be one of the, the assistant editor of the magazine. But, I think it's something that, some people can strive for. It adds a lot to the hobby. It also takes a lot of time to do it because you got to take photographs and you got to write. Sometimes I'm deadlined and I haven't finished the model and I got to get it done in 2 days, and I'm rushing to get it done and to get the pitches done, and then I got to write 4,000 words articles. It's sometimes it can be stressful. My wife's like, "Why do you do this to yourself?" Because I love it. It's all right. I mean, there's a lot worse things you could be stressing over than writing an article for a magazine.
Yeah.
So how long does an article usually take you? Do you got to do a certain article every month? Or
I do one every month. Yeah. So for instance, I'm in the process of the model I'm building right now is a 1/16 scale 250/1. It's a half track Dawes work.
Okay.
And I'm like 3/4 of building it. And today's what, the 27th of February?
Yeah.
I got to get this bastard done in the next like 3 or 4 days so I can submit the photographs totally done. So I got to kind of finish this build by like the end of the weekend. And I have to write this every month. I do like the last issue, not this issue that just passed. I only had one article on this last issue, but the issue prior, I had 3. Wow. And I think it was like 11 or 12 pages. The magazine's 100 pages. So I contributed to like 13% of the magazine that issue. So it's, listen, wow. The writing is the easy part because you just need to convey what you're saying. And then the editor, which is Dave Grummett, the managing editor, he goes through it and he'll make it a better article. Okay. So if you might not be the best writer, listen, modelers aren't writers. You're a modeler for a reason and not a writer. Yep. So when you're able to, convey what you're trying to say, the editor will be able to write it in a way where it makes sense if it doesn't. But I've been writing for so long now, and I've written so many articles that I know what to write. Like I kind of know what's going on. Hold on one second, guys. Debbie. My wife. I'm sorry, guys. My son.
No worries.
Don't worry about it.
Take care of what you guys take care.
I kind of walked you into that question because you gave me some advice on the Discord about getting into magazines as far as taking the pictures, how important the pictures are. Would you care to share that advice with the chat? Listen, if anybody wants to be published, doesn't matter what genre it is, right? You have to take good photographs. Like for the magazine that, Military Modelcraft, we kind of frown upon like
on the bench pictures. Like no one wants to see pictures of your model like with your gridded cutting pad underneath your model, right? They okay, guys, can you hold on 1 second though?
Absolutely.
Just give me 1 second.
Absolutely.
You're fine, Rob. Take your time.
Absolutely.
But he was giving me some of that advice on the Discord, and we'll let him finish it up. But it was really some really strong advice about how, you know, so it can. And Scott touched on it when he was here about how important the pictures are, and you can do it with your cell phone. You just got to have like the right background and make sure that you don't have a bunch of clutter going on.
All right, sorry about that, guys. I had to lay the Lord down up there.
Yeah, a lot of YouTubers now are building like photo booths now to even do their reveals. You know,
right? I mean, I use like a photo booth, a lighted photo booth, but I also have other diffused lighting that I put in the front of the booth. So I have the light up top, I have lights on the side, diffused, lights in the front. So it literally surrounds the model, and it's not just the light bulb. You have to have a decent camera also.
Yep.
iPhones, camera phones, they're great. You can put whatever app you want on to make the pictures better, but you're not getting the depth of field with those cameras, right? So you might get a decent picture, you might get enough light within the aperture or whatever you want to call it, but you're never going to get that depth of field across the model well with an iPhone. It looks good to you, especially on a screen like this.
Right.
But when you blow it up, you know, on high resolution, there's a lot of detail not shown on that model. It might be in focus in the front of the model, but out of focus on the back. Or it might be out of focus in this area, but focused here. You might not see that on a phone after you take the picture or put it on Facebook and looking at pictures on Facebook. But when you want to contribute to a magazine and they're blowing it up, you know, 5,000 by 3,000 high res picture, you're going to see that disparity. So I always recommend you should get yourself either a DSLR or a mirrorless type camera. I use an Nikon Z, so it's a mirrorless, and I use two different lenses. I have a regular zoomable lens, which aren't the best, but they're good for modeling. And I also have a 50 millimeter macro lens. And that lens alone was like $1,200. So when you want to take pictures of, and I wish we can share it here, but if you want to take pictures of something small on a model or something you're working on when you're using a macro lens, it's going to keep it in focus and it's going to make that thing crystal clear. And matter of fact, you'll see every dust particle on your model. That's how clear it is.
Wow.
Right. It's amazing. And so just to go back, you need lighting. It could be a photo booth. It could be a backdrop. For magazines, white is always the best. People think blue is good. No. White background.
Yeah.
And what they call infinite background. So it's going to slope. Yep. 50 millimeter macro. That's it. I use a Nikon. They're the best.
That's your bowling partner right there.
Yeah, there you go. Me and Tim. There we go. Me and him are a team.
Yeah, he contributes to a magazine too. Tim, is it Fine Scale Modeler that Tim works with, or the other one?
I thought it was the Scale Model.
Maybe that's it. Tim, tell us which one that you contribute to.
I'm waiting for him to answer.
Tim, it's my time. Why are you interrupting, man? I'm trying to get a point out, and you're interrupting this whole thing, man. You know, you know what? I shouldn't complain. I'm charging by the minute, so the longer I stay, the more I get. No, but again, infinite background, meaning like a white backdrop that goes bottom to back, and you got to have a tripod, and you got to set your camera on a timer. Meaning when you take a picture and you press the shutter or you press the screen, you're tapping the camera. And if you're not putting it on a timer and it has that little shake, that little bit of shake might out of focus part of that model. When you put it on a timer, 5 second, you hit the button and you get the countdown. That's what's gonna.
I got one of those little. You can see it right there in the background. I got some potato chips in there right now, but that's
that's your little booth.
It's little. I got it from Amazon, and it's got the lights already in it, and it folds down and goes into a little bag. And it wasn't that expensive. I want to say it was like $50. I didn't think it was that bad.
But yeah, what he's saying makes sense. So if you can have a camera on a tripod and then set the timer and just hit it, then you're not touching it.
Right.
Let the
You got that. That's the whole idea.
Yep.
Right. So you got the camera's got to be totally still when it takes that picture.
Yep.
Totally still.
Especially if you're on macro, because that's so close up. But.
Yep, 100%.
Well, we try to keep it at about an hour. I think we've touched on a little bit of everything, but
one thing I want to touch on is I want them to kind of talk about the turkey shoot, and then maybe we can see more people for next year. I participated for the first time this year. I had a blast. Same with Bruce. We were in your Discord for a little while. That was very busy. That was very busy. And then we were in the Gobble Gobble 2 room. So is there anything that you'd like to announce with another group build that you might have coming up? Or?
Right. We're going to definitely do the bunny build for Easter, which is sort of like the turkey shoot. And it's, a 3 or 4 day build. And that's what the turkey shoot is. We start on the Thursday morning, 12 a.m., goes until Sunday. And it's a lot of fun. Last year we had like almost 20 guys at 12 a.m. ready to go. And we have I hope you guys don't hear this upstairs. Do you hear these? Anybody?
No, we don't hear them. We don't hear them.
I can hear them, and they're killing me upstairs right now. But yeah, it's a great time. It's a really great time. And I really recommend people come in. We just build. We have a good time. We joke around, and the room stays open. Well, the room's always open, but people in the room for 4 straight days. You come in at 2 a.m., there's someone there. You come in at 7 p.m., there's people in there. So for 4 days, people are building. You go from the build to the paint job, and we do a calendar at the end of the year. Justin screwed the calendar up this year,
yes,
because he delegated it to his wife. I told him, when you do that, when you start handing over your responsibilities to your wives, they screw it up.
Yeah, he had some poor guy had his name next to my POS tank that I built, so I'm sure he's ranting and raving somewhere, mad because he's now associated with that tank, right? That's terrible. When that gets close, Rob, let us know if you come up with an e-flyer or whatever. We'll be happy to share that and get that out there. Speaking of sharing group builds, we got one quick commercial we need to run, don't we, Bruce?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's run that baby.
Good. While you're doing that, I'm going to run 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Do you think? Take your time.
Hey, we should host another group build sponsored by the podcast.
Sure, but it needs to be a race car this time.
Yeah, something that can race on asphalt or dirt.
And night and different types of weather. That would be pretty cool.
And can fly.
Wait, what?
What you talking about, BG?
Hey, I got it. Rally cars.
Yes.
What date should we run the build for?
How about January 31st? It can start and go to December 31st. That's a good amount of time.
Sure, I can work with that.
Okay, but I gotta say, I'm a little concerned about the defying gravity thing. I haven't had much luck in that lately.
Join the Scale Model Car Podcast 2025 Rally Cool Rally Car Group Build and build that rally car model kit that's been sitting on your shelf ever since you brought it home from the hobby store and said, I'm gonna build that one day, because now is your chance.
I love that commercial.
I still love the GTO part, that pork chuck.
Yeah, I know. To give you a little backstory with that, Rob. You know Chuck from the model car.
Yeah,
podcast.
I met Chuck.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I met Chuck.
Right, Chuck. He had a GTO that he built, and it was a known kit to be a pain in the butt to put together anyway. And he did a really good job with it. And he was taking it down or doing something with it and dropped it, and it ended up going into more pieces than it was when it was in kit form on the sprue. But he's built another one that's even better than that one. But so every time we hear Chuck talk about defying gravity in that commercial, it gets a snicker out of all of us.
It's a hoot.
So you do an ad spot for the Scale Model Car Podcast?
Yeah, we do that for their group build. That's what I'm saying. If you've got
what are you doing? What are you helping them out for? They're competitors. They're
every night when I sign off, or every Thursday night when I sign off, I give them a shout out, and I give the Insanity guys.
They blackmail us.
Yeah.
Guys, man. Is he still in here? Is Matt still in this chat?
Yeah, he just posted up. Yeah,
He's perking up over there. I'm sure he is.
He's probably well into his bourbon by now.
Put that one up there, Bruce.
Whoa, shots fired. Shots fired.
Bam.
My lowest rated podcast is when I had the Scale Model Car podcast on. when I see the algorithms or the dynamics, when you look in your dynamics, it's like, oh, here's this episode, this, and I'm like, what? Why is episode 16? Oh, that was the Scale Model Car podcast show. Now I know why no one listens to that one. They probably, you know what it is? They show you when everybody started turning it off. And it goes in like 5, it's like 3, you're looking, and like right about the 4-minute mark, I'm like, why? Oh, that's when Matt started talking. They fucking rejected.
They're out of here.
That's funny. That is funny.
Nah, they're good guys over there. I just try not to associate too much with them. I got a reputation to protect.
See, and we're trying to pull ourselves up to get up to those guys. Maybe catch up to you guys one day. Listen. The Insanity is a great show, and I'm surrounded. I'm glad. That's why I brought Justin on. I kind of regret bringing on Donati and Rob Adams, but what are you going to do with that? I mean, I'm stuck with those guys. These Canadians, this is the problem. Like, they always think you owe them something. These Canucks. I should have never had these guys on, man. I love Rob Adams, but my God, Frank, they're trying to take over the show. I got to be careful. I kind of can feel them on my neck. And they're just waiting for me to drop dead so they can take over the show entirely. These guys, Well,
Thankfully, I got the
password. Firefighter, so you got to be careful with him.
Frank, you did good. Listen,
they're all good guys.
When you have a show, you got to have you got to be friends. You can't be the fucking Backstreet Boys. You can't be a boy band that was put together by some producer. You got to be friends. You got to you got to be able to be friends off the air. You got to be friends on the air. And the reason why our show works, like any other one, I'm not going to say that, there's a lot of great podcasts out there. The Geeks, the Posse, these guys, the Mojos, they're all good. Build Sideways, Scale Model Podcast, Car Model Podcast. These guys are great. But you got to be friends, because that's why it sounds authentic when we're ranting and joking and stuff. Because if you're not friends, it doesn't sound real.
Right.
I mean, when you hear me bust on Santucci on my show, I do it because I bust on him when we're not in there.
Yeah, right? The first time I ever heard that, I'm like, wow. And then, of course, building character development, I learned that that's just your banter, your love language, if you will. You guys.
Okay. So, Mike, you come in this Discord. You come in our build rooms, right?
Yep.
You come in every night. I can't fucking get rid of you now. You're like a vulture. You're fucking surrounded. What do I say when you walk in? I'm like, oh my God. It was so relaxing. And now this asshole's walking in now. I got to look at this guy.
I had Monday off due to the rain, and I was bumming around. So I went in there, and he's like, it's not even dark in here.
It's not even dark yet. I usually don't see you until like 7 o'clock. I was like, oh my God, let me get some building before this guy gets in. And then boop, it's like freaking Beetlejuice. I said his name 3 times. He pops up.
Yeah.
But Mike, though, in all seriousness, though, I break your balls when you come in.
Absolutely.
Right. No one's immune. But I'm going to tell you right now, I get my balls busted more than anybody.
Yeah. Everybody's going to get. Oh, yeah. You give what you get. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of guys hanging out, and sometimes it gets to be a locker room, but just hanging out and having fun and talking stuff.
Dude, I get attacked every night by these guys. But it's in fun though. Sometimes it gets a little crazy, but it's fun and we have a good time. That's what it's about. It's a hobby. If you're not, and this is all joking aside, this is the philosophical Rob Rev. I'm a colon cancer survivor, right? I'm going on 10 years cancer free. I could be dead, right? And I know I say that sometimes jokingly, but it's the truth. And every day I wake up, it's a blessing, right? And I love this hobby. I love the people in this hobby. And every day, if you're not enjoying yourself, every minute that you're in that build room, building whatever you're building or painting whatever you're painting or talking to whoever you're talking to, if you're not enjoying yourself every minute of that time, you're doing it wrong.
Well said.
Because when I'm at work, I love my job, but I think about wanting to get home. I want to see my family, and then I want to build on. That's what I do.
Yeah.
You know, and I enjoy it, and it's fun. And and I tell people all the time in our build rooms, I say it on the podcast when we had a mental health episode, we did one on one thing. And, the hobby has made my life better in a lot of ways. I have a severely disabled son, and my son is great. He's a good boy. But you know what? Sometimes it can be stressful. And that stress is alleviated sometimes when I sit in that build room, even if it's by myself or it's with the guys and I'm building, and I just fade away into my own little la la land, and I'm building a model and I'm relaxing, and I tell people all the time, just enjoy the hobby, enjoy the friends, do what makes you happy. Don't build for anybody else but yourself. And that goes back to the shows. And I always tell people, everybody's like, oh, I got to make sure this is right. I'm going to get dinged a point for this or another. I was like, bullshit. Don't worry about that crap. Build the model for yourself, because you know why? The minute you walk out of that show, nobody fucking remembers what anybody won.
Right.
Go ask the asshole standing next to you the next year who won the year prior. Nobody remembers. No one cares. No one cares. And people got to realize that. Like, build for yourself. Don't build for others. When you start building because you're worried about what a judge is going to say about your model, nobody cares.
Yep.
And you're building for the wrong reasons. Right? I tell people that all the time. I'll never take $1 from anybody in this hobby. I do a podcast. I don't take Patreon. I'm going to put a YouTube channel up. I'm not going to take $1. I write articles every month for magazines. I don't take $1. You know why? Because I'm not in it for money. I don't need the money from the hobby. I want to do because I want to give back to the hobby. And if people are doing it for money or doing it for, I'm not saying people who have do it as a business. It's different. Yeah. I'm talking about people who do it as a hobby, looking to make something out of it. That's not me. It's not Rob Riv. It's not the Insanity. It's not what we're ever going to do. I just want to have fun. I want to break Santucci's balls, and I want to laugh and enjoy ourselves. That's it.
That was Jason. Jason and I first had the idea of this AMC live cast, and thank God we brought Bruce on, because his producer skills are outstanding.
Yeah, I'm going to bring him on me when we do it. I'm going to hire you, Bruce.
he's good.
Hey, I work for good money.
That's it. He just helped
I'll take care of you.
He helped Jim from JR Salvinos get started on theirs, which is awesome. But Jason and I had the same conversation. We pick up sponsors here and there, but we don't take anything in the form of monetary. If you want to send us, if you're a 3D guy like Josh, he sends us a package every month. We talk about it. We give our honest opinions about it, and we get to keep whatever it is that he sends us, which is a bonus for us. But at the same time, it's, we're not. Chris tried to give us a form of money, and we reverted it back into a discount for the viewers. We just
the customers. Yeah.
Just don't take it the wrong way. What I'm saying, even with advertisements, I put people on our shows, and it's just trying to help people out. If you want to do that, that's great. But for me personally, that's not what we do. And I just got to be philosophical at the end here, just to let people know, enjoy yourself, because you don't know, God forbid, if you're ever going to get in that room again when you go to bed that night. So
yeah, that's true.
100%.
Just enjoy yourself and have fun. And if you got to break chops and have a couple of laughs in the process, even better.
Even better. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
And do me a favor, though, Mike. Can you do me a favor?
Don't
have Justin or Frank on your show anymore, please. Don't have them on.
Frank,
do you know what? Bring Santucci on.
I want to bring Santucci on.
Really?
What in the world? Want to get him on here?
What can you possibly talk to with Santucci on this show?
Hey,
what can you have a conversation about?
Santucci is a volcano of information.
Oh my God! Useless information. You want to know what? You want to know what time George Washington crossed the Delaware? He's your guy, right? You want to know what type of underwear they wore in 1776? He's your guy. You want to know what type of glue to use to put your model together? He ain't the guy.
He ain't the guy.
He's a really good.
He's not even here, and he's not even here to defend himself. I love.
I'm sure he's probably. I think they got you on in the Discord. So I think Justin's playing you on the Discord. So he's probably sitting in there. I can see him now. He's sitting at his workbench with his manly man ponytail, just shaking his head.
Hold on a minute. No, Santucci's not in the room. It's Adam Jackson, Justin, Chuck, Andrew Meese's in there, John Badgley's in there, and Rob Adams is in there. So it's 9 o'clock. So a couple of guys, it's past their bedtime already at 9 o'clock. So they're already out of there.
Talking about rounding it off in your Discord. Tell everybody how they can get to your Discord, where they can find you, where they can find your podcast, what you got going on coming up.
All right,
plugs.
The Discord group is just the Modeling Insanity. I think it's the Modeling Insanity Build Room server. That's what it is. So you can find us on there like that. That's Justin Ryan is the one that started all that. So I don't know anything about the Discord.
I believe there's a link on your Facebook page. I believe there's a
link. There is a link. Justin's my organizational guy, so I pay him money to like keep things organized, which he screws up all the time anyway.
In the description below, folks.
Oh yeah, it'll be in the description below as well. Yeah, when we get done.
And the Modeling Insanity podcast, which is the main podcast, and that's on all the major podcast channels: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and all the other ones. The Buzzsprout feed, Quarter Scale Madness, which is also a Modeling Insanity sponsored podcast that I do with Luke and Stan, and that's also on those same Apple, Spotify, and everything. And the YouTube channel is going to be starting. Modeling Insanity TV is going to start sometime in March. And you can see me articles, builds that I do on Facebook. I have Rob Riv's Modeling Insanity is my Facebook page that I do my modeling on. Obviously, Rob Riviezo is my, personal page that I post my food on or bitch about the New York Jets. What's up?
The noodles, all your noodles,
all my ramen and stuff.
He's a good Italian boy, buddy.
Well, no, it's noodles. Japanese noodles, ramen. And you can see, like I said, Military Modelcraft International, which is a magazine you can get at Barnes and Noble, get subscriptions, pocket mags, things like that. I'm on there. That's pretty much it. I think we touched on about everything. So
that's it. Yeah, sounds good.
That's awesome.
I appreciate you having me on, but I don't want you to have it. Don't ask me ever again. I hope this lives forever on YouTube. That way I don't have to come back.
Right? It is forever on YouTube.
Yes, it is.
We really appreciate you coming on. We really do.
I had a blast.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? I mean, I hope we didn't put these car modeling guys to sleep, but it was a lot of fun. So check out the podcast. You'll have a couple of laughs. So.
Oh yeah.
Again, I think a lot of that stuff crosses over. I think a lot of it, what you guys do, you can cross it over for sure.
Yeah. So we'll be good. But thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Rob. We're gonna go ahead and do our sign-offs, but don't go anywhere. And then when we do punch out, don't go anywhere. We'll go backstage a little bit and chat. But Bruce, you want to go ahead and start your sign-off?
Hi, I'm Bruce. Bruce's Eclectic World, and once again, I want to thank Mr. Rob for being here tonight. A lot of fun. And I want to thank everybody come into the chat tonight. Chat was moving pretty good. Appreciate that, everybody. And I want to thank all both my awesome hosts. That's it. Have a great weekend, everybody, too, is coming up. So a lot of us is having warm weather.
Yes, thank God. Thank God.
So who's next?
I'll go. So thanks for everybody. This is Jason from Klein Race Car Designs. We appreciate everybody in the chat. We've got a bunch of different people in there. Of course, we got to thank Mr. Rob Riv. What an amazing guest. I mean,
a lot of fun.
Awesome. It's a lot of fun to have you on. Definitely all learned a lot about different viewpoints and soldering stuff. So go check out Rob's videos if you want to learn about soldering techniques and all that stuff. And then check out his channels. The builds are awesome. I participated in the turkey shoot. I probably are going to do this Easter one as well. So get involved. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Trust me. The room is always open. So
always open.
Well, I want to echo both Bruce and Jason. Thank you, Rob, my friend, for coming on. We enjoyed it for sure.
Had a good time.
Definitely, like Jason said, go check out all of his social media and his podcast. Again, I highly recommend that you watch it or listen to it from the beginning. It's cool to build that character development with those guys, and you almost feel like you're in the room with them, just laughing and cutting it up. But just be the old scale model outlaw, and like I tell you all every time, be kind to each other, be safe, and keep on modeling, and never forget that big old thumbs up. See y'all next week.
Night, everybody.